The war against women is increasingly apparent in Western nations that have allowed the demands of the trans activist movement to infringe upon the hard-fought-for rights of women. One area where that is causing significant issues is women's sport. Multiple sporting bodies have belatedly released policies banning male bodies that identify as female from competing in women's competition. But we still see too many cases where fairness and logic have been sacrificed in the name of diversity and trans inclusion. My next guest has been calling out that madness, afflicting multiple sporting codes from junior ranks to elite competition. Sharron Davies is an Olympic great who competed in 3 Olympic Games over 3 decades for Great Britain, winning Olympic and Commonwealth medals in swimming. Sharron, earlier today, the Republican-led House passed a bill that will ban schools and colleges that receive federal money from allowing male bodies to compete in girls' or women's sport. It looks like an enormous step forward, but the Biden White House is indicating it will veto the Protection of Women and Girls in Sport Act if it somehow passes the Democrat-held Senate. Why do we have so many politicians in so many countries siding with the trans activist over the female athletes?
Morning, Rita from Great Britain. Yes, that's such an interesting question, isn't it? Why is the logic and the perceived attitude of the general public who want fair sport for women and girls seeming to be ignored by politicians and some, heads of national governing bodies as well? And all the science shows us that we can't mitigate male puberty. So what we're saying to young girls and women is they're not worthy of fair sport. So we have fair sport for males, but we don't have fair sport for females. And that is what the issue is. It's not an anti-trans position that I've ever had. It's a pro-female position that we deserve to have that equality in the world of sport.
And the trans athletes can still compete. It would just be in the male competition. So it's not that they are banned from competing. And that's a point that needs to be made because there seems to be a bit of confusion about that. We've seen a number of polls showing that the overwhelming majority of the public are against male bodies in women's sport. So again, why do the activists hold so much power when public opinion is against them?
I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. I don't know why we're in this situation. I don't know how we're in this situation. Many years ago when I started campaigning, I wrote to the IOC and I had 60 names of very, very well-known British Olympic medalists saying, please do the science first. Please act on the science. Please just don't kick women's sport away. And the reason I'm so vocal is that I was competing during the GDR era, the East German era, when we were competing against young girls that were fueled up by testosterone. And they totally dominated. In my Olympics, they won 90% of the medals. In the female events in the Olympics in the pool. And it was impossible to beat them because we didn't have, our bodies couldn't do what their bodies could do because we didn't have the equipment. And it's exactly the same problem now. So I honestly, I don't know. There's got to be a better way. My solution is an open category so that therefore everybody is included. But really people should be competing by biological sex. Sport is done by our bodies. It's not done by our feelings.
Mm-hmm. Well, women are the losers when we pretend there are no biological differences, aren't they? I mean, you just cannot have women competing against men and hoping to succeed. You only have to look at the results from any sporting pursuit, particularly the Olympic Games. Now, we're seeing some trans women, even some that seem to mock womanhood, be granted sponsorships, endorsement deals, even if they have no sporting ability to speak of. Dylan Mulvaney has been recently promoting Nike sports bras and leggings. And you say that deserves a boycott. Tell me why.
It's not so much that it deserves a boycott. I mean, I was asked about it one evening on a TV show, and I just said, look, the only thing that's left for us women to do is to kind of voice our disapproval with our wallets. And, if anybody disrespects us, then we go, OK, then we just won't buy their product. And so that turned into the British press this massive call for a boycott. But, fair enough. If that works, then do it that way. It was more that I felt it was insulting. Women athletes have worked so hard for years to get away from run like a girl and horrible stereotypes. And we're just reinforcing stereotypes in every single direction at the moment. And that is really bad for society because we don't all fit into boxes. We don't need to fit into boxes. A woman is not red lipstick and a skirt. You know, it is our biology and what we've had to deal with because of that biology throughout our whole lives. And it's irrelevant what we look like, you know, when we come to going into a race. And it's ridiculous that trans activists decide to insult by using what people look like, you know, because really it does them no favors either in the end of the day, because that's not what we're talking about. We're literally just talking about pure biology. The sad and interesting stat as well is that in America, where obviously there's probably the most amount of money, sports sponsorship money is incredibly badly divided. In fact, only 1% of sports sponsorship money goes to females in America, 1%, when they represent half the population. And of that 1%, they're then going to give it to somebody who is trying to sell a sports bra to someone who has nothing to put in it. You know, and the whole point of sports bras, it needs to support a woman when she does sport. So there was lots of different reasons why I felt that was just not really acceptable.
Oh, no, I'm with you 100%. And I've seen some of the unhinged, ugly abuse threats you've copped on social media for speaking out. I know there's a lot of current and former athletes who feel the same way, but they won't say anything publicly because the backlash is so fierce and so personal. Can you just give me an overview of some of the comments you see daily?
Well, that's just one of the tactics that's used. You know, it's been used for a long time to try and stop any debate altogether, and we've managed to get past that at last. We are now at least getting a platform with being able to present the scientific evidence, being able to talk to politicians. In this country anyway, we're being able to talk to heads of the governing bodies. Obviously, I was very proud of what World Aquatics did. They talked to Kate Campbell down there in Australia and many other athletes, and they were one of the first sporting bodies to actually ask their female athletes what they think. And also we had 22,000 coaches around the world that also lobbied FINA to say, look, you know, we believe in fair sport as well. We see it every day in training, and we know that it's unfair. So I think it's this very transparent process that needs to be there. And in many sports, that's not happening, particularly things like cycling. You know, world cycling is just atrocious. Rowing is really bad. You know, in some sports, we're genuinely talking about the potential for injury as well. And when it comes to the abuse, I mean, it's water up a duck's back now, excuse the pun. I've got to the point where I just don't watch it. I don't care. It means absolutely nothing. And, you know, to try and insult me by telling me I look like a trans woman, I just find the most ironic thing that you could ever actually do.
Well, you look absolutely fabulous, and you are a very brave woman indeed. Sharron Davies, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Rita.